to the best book show ever. I'm your host, Beth Albright, and I am thrilled to offer you my favorite thriller writer. Kaira Rouda is here with us today, and her brand new book comes out today, which I just am so excited. And I can't believe that I was able to get an early copy. I finished the book. Those last 60 pages, I don't think my heart stopped beating at like 200 beats a minute. It was just like, oh my God. Yes, so it was so good, Kaira. Congratulations on another winner. I'm so excited to have you. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Beth. It's great to see you and be with you again. And thank you for reading my book. And yeah, it's kind of my scariest, I think, climax scene that I've written.
You think?
Yeah. The problem with writing like kind of unreliable and sometimes like not very nice characters is then people like will give you like a 2-star review because they didn't like the people. I'm like, no, that means you're in the story. Yeah. So anyway, that's the only problem with that. But yes, I do have some nasty characters in this one.
You do. And you did go a little bit darker. So is this like a new thing that creepy Kaira is now even creepier?
I know. I don't know what happened, Beth, but I think it has something to do with the pandemic. And I wrote this story during that first wave, during the lockdown. We didn't know where the pandemic stuff was coming from, like if it was on the door handle or if it was on your counter, or if it was in the air. So I think just that whole notion, and all my kids, 20-something kids have moved home, and we're all just, watching that Tiger King thing and like trying to survive. And times were dark. And so the
alternate reality is where we were. Yeah.
So then the whole notion of like, okay, so home is your safe place, right? And being at home should feel really safe. And then what if it isn't? And that's kind of where the story came from.
Well, that opening prologue, that was the creepiest thing. Like that draws you in the second you begin reading, and somebody, like she can see somebody moving around in her house. I want to tell you something. I think maybe it was extremely creepy to me because when Ted and I were younger, we didn't have children, and we lived in somebody's house that we used to call him, it's terrible to say, next door idiot, because he was an idiot, but we lived in a duplex, and he had keys to our house, and he was always right there. So we'd come home. I was doing talk radio at the time, and I would get off the air, and we'd come home like 3 p.m. Guess who's inside our house?
No.
In the bedroom.
Oh, no.
We just believe to this day he was putting cameras in. He was always installing things, fixing things. So this story really appealed to me because I kind of lived it like, is that guy actually in our kitchen? Like he's in the window. Do we not want to go in anymore?
No, we don't want to go in. Hopefully you guys moved pretty soon after that.
6 months. We were there 6 months and chop. It was actually in Ohio, your home state. Was
it? So we don't usually do that in Ohio.
No, I thought, I married an Ohio guy. So
right. Yeah, Ohio people are nice. Boy,
that's but that is, I think people are going to relate to this story because if you do ever rent and you have landlords or you have property managers in your apartment and you come home and there are sometimes people in your house, and in this day and time especially, you're just more suspicious. And all of those suspicions while you're reading this book, it's like, oh my gosh.
Well, right. And then you're also wondering if the person in your house is bringing you COVID too. So there's like a whole added thing. Although this book, I did not write about the pandemic because that would have been
What do you think about that? As author to author, I've avoided it. I've got the thriller is now out on submission with my new agent, but then I also have the next one that I'm writing. I'm about 4 or 5 chapters in. I'm not writing about the pandemic. What do you think about that?
I think people turn to our type of books for escape and for to have a world where, by the end of it, there will be some kind of resolution. And I think adding an ongoing pandemic into a book when we don't have a resolution yet, we're still in the middle of it. We don't know when we will have a resolution, would just add something, I don't know, just too real. I feel like that's my feeling.
My feeling too. I'm not really ready to live it. And as the author, aren't you living the story?
Oh yeah.
Creepy characters.
My people were so bad in this book. I had to reel them back a couple times because I'm like, what are you doing now? Stop that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was enough. Yeah. So I just came up here and lived in that world.
Yeah.
My office is upstairs as opposed to downstairs where we were washing vegetables and all that. So yeah.
Probably that you were growing, right?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, from my garden. I'm like, wait, you guys, you don't have to wash that. I just grew it right there. Stop it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. So let's talk about these characters, because I mean, I enjoyed the story. It was edge of your seat, heart thumping, but the people that you created, to me, really drew me in and kept my pages turning, because I cared about them and wanted to see what happened to them. One of the creepiest people, I told you many times, the favorite daughter, that mom, that creeped me out to this day. I don't know, what was that, 3 years ago? I'm still creeped out by her.
Yeah, Jane is a pretty creepy character. Yes.
God. But you write diabolical, mentally damaged people so well. Because that's kind of, I'm drawing correlation between her and Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, his obsession with this girl wasn't just this obsession with this girl. It was like, okay, I'm going to marry her. That's the one. From the moment he lays eyes on her, and he's got this narrative going in his head that she's the one. He's got to make her understand that. So that is so bizarre to me. I've actually known somebody like that. They're so off. And the mental place that they live is not in the real world. Do you know people like that, or how do you come up with these people?
Well, I mean, I do think, all of us create the world we live in, right? And so there's different degrees of world building. So yes, to your point, Tom is a little bit scary because he's very black and white, wrong and right.
Yep.
And his own moral code is very rigid, and he's very hurt. He's been shoved aside by his dad. He's feeling very alone in the world, and unfortunately he's also fallen prey to like a group of bad guys who are influencing him as well. So he's kind of torn by, he's always wanting love, and his mom left the family early on to get away from her situation, we assume, and so he's just looking for love. And so when he sees Jess moving into the house that he loves, then all of a sudden he's putting all of his hope for love back on her.
Yeah. But the way he convinces himself of things, that to me was the scariest part of him. It's literally how you were able to get in there and show us how his brain was working. And that it was so real and true, because I've known people like that. They don't live in any kind of reality. Then you've got these other two male characters. And I'm going to tell you, I'm from the South. So like Doug, I know those people. I went to school with those people. Lord help us, as they say. He's a preacher. He's kind of scary, but that's really reality. That's the way a lot of people live that I know personally. Is it Sandy?
Yes, Sandy's his wife.
She was so real. Completely know those people. I know them. Do you know those people? How did you come up with her and give her that voice? She's so strong, but she comes across as weak until you see what happens in the end. She's so strong because her convictions are so strong.
Right. Bottom line in this story, I think Sandy as well as Julie are moms who really love their kids, and they're doing the best they can with the circumstances that they found themselves in. Right. So with Sandy, she was raised in a religious home. Her father was a pastor. So she believes the best in people who are in that profession. Right. Mm-hmm. So she marries this man who she thinks is going to be like a good guy like her dad is. And, her dream is to be like the pastor's wife of a church and, and hold that space and be helpful. And all of a sudden she finds herself with a man who's it's all about him and his ego. It has nothing to do with God or religion or helping people. It's all about helping himself. And so, so she knew what she was looking for. She just picked the wrong person. Right. And so so when we meet her, she's having a realization that, her husband is not going to change probably. And she's got to make some changes.
Yeah. And she's got to be Mama Bear, even though she's so sweet and quiet about it all. And she
Really is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The economy of that character development was, I think that of this book, I mean, all your books have been so wonderful and these characters are just always amazing. But this book in particular, these people seemed like they jumped off the page to me. They were like in my living room, like standing in front of me. And your style of writing with all the different characters speaking and not really telling us exactly what they're doing as much as they're just talking, that was creepy. That was creepy because that's how the reader, for me, that's how I got to know them. And that's how come they became three-dimensional. So is that a new style for you?
I mean, I love first person narrators. I think it's a way to like pull you close to a character, even if maybe he or she isn't the nicest person in reality, but they're trying to entertain you and tell you what they want you to see about them. So maybe they get rounded out by what happens in the story, but also by the other characters kind of giving you their perspective on each other. So it was fun to have,
I love that.
excuse me, to have an ensemble cast, because, it's like with Best Day Ever and The Favorite Daughter, it was just one character the entire way through the book. So that's a lot of, you're very close to that character, and they often
that's how I've always written. All of the books I've written have always been the single first person narrator. I tried to do a third person. The agent and the publisher were determined for Sleigh Bells that I would have a third person. I can't stand it. I don't even like to read those as much. I want to know the person that's in trouble or whatever,
I agree. I feel, and especially in this genre, it feels more urgent and more claustrophobic, maybe. I don't know if that's the word for it, but just tighter. And in The Next Wife, I had 3 narrators, cast members. So that I think that maybe freed my brain a little bit to have all these characters in somebody's home.
So this one had 6.
Yeah.
Right? So how hard was that for you? Because we had Doug and Roger and Tom, and then there were the 3 women, Jess and Julie and Sandy. And so with all of them talking all the time, somebody might think, oh my gosh, how confusing. It absolutely was not, because they all live in their own really bubble of space. So it's like you were visiting each person's home when I was reading it.
Yeah, and it was fun because they all would be like just waiting to tell their side of the story. If I was on one person's section, then all these other characters were like, wait, I've got something to say. I'm like, just calm down, I'll get to you in a minute. Yeah. So that was the funny part, trying to, because I'm not really a plotter, so more of a pantser. So I had to write down like who got what turns, so I wouldn't like give somebody too much of the story. So that was the only problem with that.
Let's talk about plotting and pantsing. I really use this show. We've been on a hiatus for a really long time during pandemic, and we had to move. So all of that happened, and I kind of put this show on hiatus, but I really like to use this platform to encourage, hopeful authors, whether they're just coming back into their careers like yours truly, or they're just actually trying to get started. And I have a number of friends who haven't quite broken through yet, and I don't want people to give up. And you are such a light for those people because you just live that way. First, let's talk about being the plotter pantser, and then let's talk about your own journey to this amazing place where you sit now.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just was on an interview and I heard a new term, which is plantser.
I watched that. Did
you see that? And I'm like, what's a plantser? And so it's in between a plotter and a pantser. So I think that's where I'm trying to move to, because as you know, and everybody probably knows, plotting, people will write big outlines of their stories and get it all down and all the points before they even start, maybe huge character sketches and all the stuff. And then pantsers like me will have a character like Tom pop into her head and then the title. And then I'm like, ooh, that's creepy. And then I start writing. My agents, on the other hand, kind of want the plan. Like, what are you writing? When will it be here? What are you doing?
I don't know.
I know. I'm like, sorry, so for a little bit, maybe like in Favorite Daughter, Next Wife time, I might have written the whole story and then gone back and done an outline.
Totally
Yeah.
done that.
It's
Yeah.
like, hey, what do you think of this? And then they're like, oh, that's great. Yeah. And then you could go write that. And then I have to wait a couple months and pretend I'm still writing. And then, yeah. Anyway, so, but I am trying to learn the joy of doing just a little outline first and sending it to them and hoping they like it. So that's where I'm moving to, these planter
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
yeah,
I like that for me too, because I've run into the same thing. Send me an
yeah, because
outline. Send me the synopsis is the worst. Send me the
oh,
synopsis. Like,
terrible,
are you
terrible.
kidding me? I
I
don't
know.
know. They haven't
No, I
spoken
could
to
not.
me yet.
No. And if I do that, it's going to ruin everything. So you just, yeah, that's when you have to go and write. If they
Have
say
you ever
synopsis, I have
tried
to
to be
write.
a plotter? Have you ever tried that method?
No.
I tried it. It is the most anxiety filling time of my life to have all the sticky notes and all the people. It's like, I don't even, there's no way that you can stick to that because nothing has happened. They're not talking to you. They're not in action.
Right.
It's like, I used to know somebody who wanted to plan out every point of their life for like 10 years. And it's like you're in a video game and you don't know what new thing just popped up. So how do you make a decision about what you're going to do tomorrow when today isn't done yet?
Right.
I just don't live that way. And so it's
No.
hard to become that way. But you're right. All of the agents and everybody wants to know, okay, what are you doing next? And then let me have an outline.
They kind of want to plan, so they can help sell stuff. I understand their
Yeah, yeah.
point. Just,
Yeah,
it's
will
just
fill you
hard when
with
you're writing.
anxiety. It will. I'm promising
It
you. You haven't
does.
done it. So I like that planter idea too.
Yeah.
Do you think that works for thrillers? Because somebody said to me recently, if you're writing women's fiction or romance or whatever, I can see, the pantser thing really works, fly by the seat of your pants. But with a thriller, when you need to have a crime or a killer or a twist or, those ups and downs of the plots of any kind of suspense or thriller, does that make it harder for you to write that kind of novel being the plotter? I mean, the pantser.
Nah. I mean,
Just
I don't know any other way, right?
yeah.
So I don't know, it probably presumably would be a good idea to know your plot twist and all that stuff. But I just like my characters to surprise me. And I don't know that it would be as fun for me to write a story if I didn't get those surprises along the way.
Mm-hmm. So when you're writing and there's got to be plot twists, those just come into your head as you're in that character's head.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting the way your brain works.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Let's but I'm going to save the encouragement for other authors toward the end here, just a few more minutes. I would really like to talk about what you're doing next, because I kind of got a little blurb of that by watching you on another show. And it's exciting. That's very exciting. So talk a little bit about that and when that's coming out.
Okay. Yeah. My next spooky book is called The Widow, and it's coming out November 15th. And it'll be my first one set in Washington, D.C., where I got to spend a little bit of time when my husband was serving in Congress. And it's such a great setting for spooky things, as you know. The Hill is just fraught with stories and history and power struggles and all that stuff. So it's about a cheating congressman's wife who he dies a sudden death, and she invokes the widow's mandate to take over his seat.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So
And
I instantly think how's your husband dealing with some of these, especially this darkest book, Somebody's Home, that comes out today. Yeah. How's he dealing? How's Harley deal with creepy Kaira?
Well, what he always tells people he sleeps with one eye open now, because it just keeps getting darker and darker and darker. Yeah. But I mean, look, I'm a nice person, right?
It's just the strangest, ironic thing to see beautiful, blonde, bubbly Kaira living in Southern California. And, you're just so perky. And then you read your books and you're like, who is that person? Especially in this last book where I was just like,
I know that. I told you that Somebody's Home just got really, really dark.
Yeah. You actually sent me a warning. This is very dark.
I know. I did.
Yeah. And it is. But you still have redemption kind of thing. And you still have a little bit of hope It's not like, oh, everyone dies and it's all hopeless.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, no, not at all. And I do think, I mean, the whole through line from women's fiction to romance to even creepy Kaira suspense is like love is redemptive, and the power of moms and their care for their kids.
Mhm.
That is like a through line for a lot of my stories, and it is in this story as well.
How do you think you made that, and why did you go from romance and things that happen in, Malibu, you know, all of those things, and then you got into more like family stuff with Here Home Hope, and those were all, helpful, redemptive, heartwarming,
Mhm.
and now we're at the darkest point, the darkest point on the Kaira trail, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but one of my other favorite authors is Lisa Jewell. And
Yeah.
she did the exact same thing. It's like, what, and me, oh, we're in, happy, perky romance, and it's all like, honey, sugar, darling in the South. And I really just want to write really dark. Is it because we went through menopause and now we want to kill people?
I don't know if that's, I mean, I was kind of, if you look at the trajectory, aside from the 2 years that I wrote romance, they were pretty much getting darker and darker, darker. I mean, women's fiction, Here Home Hope, and then In the Mirror was a little bit darker. All the Difference was totally dark. The Goodbye Year was an ensemble cast of characters, and dark things happened there, even though I was still considered in women's fiction.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I just, all of a sudden, I think maybe you peel away layers of your experience and your thoughts, and maybe the world is a little bit scarier when you have time to look around, when you're not like scrambling around raising your kids and like
True.
trying to do this, that, and that. So maybe those kind of darker things are more, I guess you see them more, and maybe you want to make sense of things,
What do
and
you
they
like
could
to
use
read?
fiction to do that. I've always loved to read suspense novels. I mean, that's pretty much my first love. I've read all the Sue Grafton, and I've read, growing up, I was always reading those kind of books. I love Nancy Drew. I love all of that. In college, I really loved the Southern lit, like some of the darker things like Shirley Jackson stuff. And I mean, I just always have been drawn to this, I guess, and I think it's just a way to explain the world. And it's scary while you're in the book, but you can always close the book, and and then the book does end as well. But it does, I think it does make you think, and it does, there's some concepts in somebody's home that are, pulled from the headlines around here. And I think, when you see things happening like that, and you realize it's right around the corner, it's in your neighborhood, that, it kind of, fiction gives you a chance to maybe explore it and try to work through it too.
Did you pull some things from the headline only because the party, that happened?
Yeah.
I think, is that true? I think I remembered something similar to that happening around here about that time. And you incorporated that so well into the story. It's really an
Oh,
impetus
thank you.
for things to come. So did
Yeah.
you do
And
that?
that, and
Pull things from headlines?
yeah, and I mean, it was during, I was writing, like all the college scandal stuff was breaking, but everybody was kind of including that. So at first Roger was going to be caught up in the college cheating scandal, but then I'm like, no, everybody's doing that. We'll give him something else. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there was a lot. And when I went to some of the hearings that Harley was having in Congress, and especially about the domestic terrorist threat. And that kind of was in my head as well. I think just hearing from all these experts about really the threat within, and how we all saw it kind of come to life too, but not just politically, but just the paramilitary and everything else that's out there. So, and how vulnerable disenfranchised young men are right now to that kind of a message.
It is.
So
so
Tom
true.
kind of represents that too,
Yeah, yeah.
but in a fictional way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have my own son who's 28, and I see things going on around him too, and he's just very frustrated sometimes, with the way the world is right now. And it, especially for young men, it can be really a tough thing going for jobs and everything. So you kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know how you wrote such horrible people that we're also empathetic with, because it's all of them. I don't really like Doug at all. There's nothing about Doug redemptive, but I found parts of Tom, even though he's so awful, and parts of Roger, who's also very awful, to where I kind of understand, a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we try to see the best in people, right? Or see something good in everyone, and even if they are horrible. And that, I mean, I think that's our job too, as writers, to maybe make you understand people's motivations and where they're coming from. So maybe you don't relate to them, or you wouldn't want to hang out with them, but you do feel a little compassion towards them.
Yeah. You don't have a psychology degree, do you?
No, I
Yeah.
don't. But, I've always been a big watcher of people.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what and, if you're an empath, you feel everything. So you
Sure.
kind of like absorb stuff, right?
Totally.
So it's
That's
all in there.
exactly me. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing, and I'm watching people's just looks on their faces and know if they're feeling something. My stomach is twisting. So
Oh,
maybe
yes.
for an empath reading this book, that it was extremely emotional, to go through these characters and their whole narrative of how they feel about all of this moment. I mean, it happens only over 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
like condensed timelines. For some reason, it helps my characters take action faster. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's why I end up doing that.
Yeah, that was so wonderful. Well, to end the show, I really want you to talk a little bit about not giving up. You are such a motivational person. You could take this platform and just run with it to as many places as you can go and encourage authors not to give up. You were instrumental. I mean, for me, I wrote for a long time, my little romance novels, and they were fun and really more women's fiction, women's friendship stuff. But I really wanted to do something else. I just really wanted to break out. And you just kept encouraging me, go, go, go. And now I'm just right at the precipice.
I'm so happy for you. And really, you're the perfect example of don't give up, right? Because if you want to do something, then do it. Like, just try, keep trying until the only way that you don't make it is if you do give up, right?
But how
And
do you get through the hard times where things just aren't happening? And you may have 6 months or a year where things aren't happening, and then you start to not believe it. How do you keep going through that? Did you ever have those experiences?
oh yeah, sure. I mean, I think everybody that wants to do anything has had like roadblocks and hurdles and 1-star reviews and agent breakups and all that kind of
Oh, yeah.
stuff. But I know, but it is about resilience. And if you want to write a novel and that's your dream, which it was mine, then you just keep going. And again, I always say this too, is in this today's world, there's so many different options. There's self-publishing, there's small press publishing, there's vanity press, there's the big guys, there's all kinds of choices, way more choices than were available when you and I started writing. And all of them have their own perks and benefits and obstacles, but there is a way to publish your book if you really want to do it.
Yeah. It's just got to be that laser determination.
Yep.
And you have that. I mean, I admire you so much because you just don't take no for an answer, and you just keep right on doing it with a big smile on your face. Like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So just like, if you say no, I don't care,
Yeah. I'll just find somebody else. Well, and I think too that, I mean, and you learn, right? You learn more from rejection and disappointment than you do from success, really. And that's my biggest thing, is to remind myself to celebrate successes more, because I tend to just be like, okay, what's next, and I think that's important too. So
Yeah.
signing with the new agent that you're excited about, that's a success.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and that's part of the whole trajectory of this career, and remembering those good times, like when I walked into the book expo at the Javits Center, and Best Day Ever was like this ginormous banner, and I almost fell over, I'm like, oh, this is like a dream come true. And just remembering those times when the hard times come, because they will. I mean, that's I worry sometimes when I see authors who were big dogs and have hit the new, I mean, it's not sustainable, no, for almost everyone, no matter what. So be kind on your way up and know there's going to be a way down, and maybe there's a way up again too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just keep on encouraging, other writers and other hopeful
Yes.
people to never say, no, and just keep holding each other's hand. I had a writer write to me the other day, I'm really struggling. Can you hold my hand? It's like, I would reach through the ethernet, just grab onto everybody, because I don't know how I could live each day if I wasn't still trying. It's just,
Right.
it drives me nuts. I have crying fits. No, all the normal things, like it's never gonna happen. What am I doing with my life? And then the next day I'm writing again,
Yeah.
because it's what I do.
Right. And it's, to your point, it's the community, the writing community, and the readers and the bookstagrammers and the librarians and all of us that come together to make this community worthwhile. And it's full of great people. And that is the support system that's such a blessing when you're in between books, or you're in between contracts, or you're waiting to see if you'll ever have another book out again.
Right.
Those are the people that are going to cheer you on. And for like 97% of the people very genuine and sincerely want you to succeed. They really do. It's because it's not a competition. There's plenty of people to read, plenty of books, and the more books, the merrier.
Right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Today is the launch of your book, Somebody's Home. And Kaira Rouda has another book coming out in November. Everybody run out and buy them and sit on the edge of your seat and feel your heart thump all day long. And it'll be like, oh, where's my glass of wine at the end of this? You'll enjoy getting to know these people so much. I know I did. Somebody's Home is out today. Kaira, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Beth. So great to see you.
You too. Good luck with everything, and I'm sure I'll have you back on soon.
I love it. Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Best Book Show Ever. Thanks so much again, Kaira, and good luck.
Thank you, Beth.
Bye, everybody.